What if part of your burnout isn't just about working too hard, but about how your relationship with money is wired deep inside your beliefs, your nervous system, and even your sense of possibility? Today, I'm speaking with investor and author Bronson Hill, who walked away from a successful multiple six-figure career to discover how to create income that continues even while he sleeps. In this conversation, we explore the practical strategies behind financial freedom and the deeper mindset shifts that allow entrepreneurs to stop grinding and start building true time freedom. Welcome to Break Free from the Burnout. I'm your host, Dr. Anastasia Chopelas, a physicist turned energy healer. I'm here to help you make the quantum shifts to release the hidden blocks to your success. Your next breakthrough starts now. I'm so pleased to be welcoming Bronson Hill to the show. So I'd love for you to start with your story.
Awesome. Sounds great. Great to be here, Anastasia. Yeah. So quick background. I basically was a well-paid medical sales professional, and I was making over $200,000 a year, and I enjoyed what I did. It was interesting. I worked with heart surgeons with some of their equipment and their devices. And one thing I realized is that I was working really hard, and I was really developing, a business for someone else. I really had something that I was creating for someone else, and they were literally making millions of dollars off of what I was doing. And I realized that for me, I really wanted to have financial freedom. And this quote Warren Buffett talks about is, unless you learn how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And so that just kind of stuck on my mind of, well, gee, I'm going to work. What happens if I can't work or don't want to work or don't want to do it? I want to do it a different way. And so for me, it was really about time freedom. A lot of people say financial freedom. For me, it was really time freedom. I want to have more control over my time. And so I kind of hit a wall at one point and just said, I really want to figure out a way to generate investment income and grow. And I was able to do that over a period of a few years. I basically made the decision. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. And a few years later, I was able to do all of that. There were some ways through investing in real estate, doing other investments, raising capital for real estate deals. And it really allowed me to live the life of my dreams. So now I've traveled, 40 to 48 countries, traveled 6 times internationally last year, and just love, creating, wrote this book behind me, Fire Yourself, a little bit about my journey, how people can also fire themselves. And so that's how I got started and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, so the travel, was that sometimes business or is it all just pleasure?
It's a mix. I mean, sometimes I'll go around. I've spoken internationally as well. And so I've spoken in different places or been a paid speaker. But for the most part, I just really enjoy traveling. I think I work really hard. I have this idea of work hard, play hard. So I work my 40 hours a week generally, but I've got a trip coming up. My next trip is in Italy. I'm excited. I'm going to go to Naples and Sicily. And so it's very motivating. And it's funny how they study this. I know you've probably done a lot of work on this too. They say that we actually enjoy thinking about our vacations more than actually when we're on our vacations. So it's funny how the visualization and you seeing yourself there and all this stuff, it's actually more enjoyable than the happiness levels or being on the trip.
Well, yeah, it's the anticipation. It's the anticipation of pleasure is way more pleasurable than the experience. And it's the same thing with anticipation of, like when you're a little kid and you did something that you shouldn't have, the anticipation of the punishment was way worse than the punishment.
Yeah, it's so true. Funny though, it's like how we remember it or how we're looking forward to it. We can I so enjoy it. But that's, I guess, the power of visualizations as well, is just anticipating, like you said.
Yeah, the anticipation. And although I have to say that I'm Greek, both my parents were Greek and my first language was Greek, even though I was born in the U.S. That first time I went to Greece was way better than my anticipation. So sometimes it's way better.
With life too, if you have low expectations, you'll just pleasantly be surprised consistently. But then I guess you're not really making plans, or I guess there's a balance. I don't know how you balance that out, but I do think visualizing and anticipating something good is really great because it helps you look forward to a goal and what you want.
So when you were doing all that work for those medical sales people, when you were doing all that work, did you experience burnout? Were you working way too hard for what you were getting out of it?
Honestly, I had some seasons where I would work 50, 60 hours a week. I wasn't working crazy hours when I left or when I was getting ready to leave. I didn't like the grind of it. And what I mean by that is Out of the 10 years I was in medical sales, 4 of those years I was top 10%. They give you awards, they give you accolades. Each quarter you have a goal, you try to meet your quarterly goal, and then they kind of give you a slap on the back. Hey, great job, you met your goal. And they'd be like, okay, we'll go do it bigger, better next quarter. And so it'd be kind of this, you'd feel like you're on a hamster wheel. The better I do, the better I perform, the higher the goals get. And so at the end of the day, I was like, man, this just feels exhausting. And I think most people that are in corporate or in like a big corporate world or do a professional job, they feel like they're a number. And I think at my company, I started to feel like, you just go out and you do this. And it was all like, how are you performing personally? And I think even with AI and all these things are now disrupting a lot of these other things, that it's hard to feel like, you really matter personally. It's like, if you don't perform, you're out. And I think that was kind of what I felt. And it just felt like a lot of pressure and a grind. And I didn't want to just keep grinding. And I wanted to do something that I could make money while I sleep, or at least create something that's my own. And I didn't want to have that for a big thing. One of the reasons I left as well.
You're something that's your own. You tend to use a lot more creativity, a lot more of you. You put yourself into it, makes a big difference for people. If you feel like you've got a purpose, we know purpose is your number one happiness factor. When you're doing sales, you're just pursuing money. That's a grind because it doesn't feel like that's your purpose. Is your purpose being a salesperson? No. People that discover, like for you, discovering a purpose of, okay, let's make money while we sleep. And on top of that, I can help other people make money while they sleep. So you can save them. So that's more purposeful than, here, have some medical equipment.
Yeah, and I think purpose is a huge thing. Something I've learned as I've interviewed over 2,500 millionaires is that most people in general in our society, it's about 70% are not engaged at work. They don't enjoy what they do. And I think that's really tragic, right? I mean, what if we all were financially free and we could do the things we felt passionate about, we're excited about, even if they didn't seem significant, even if they didn't pay really well. But when I left my job, I was able to say, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to write more music. I'm going to travel. I'm going to create experiences with my daughter. I'm going to do these things that are important. And it's like the idea, what makes you come alive? What's the thing that lights you on fire? Like, I really care about this cause. And so to me, it opened up a lot of these things. And then to me, the obstacle from that, Anastasia, was, I was afraid of failing, but I became more afraid of what if I'm 70 or 80 years old and I regret that I didn't try. Right. And I think that was a bigger fear of like, I don't want to be the guy who's has all those dreams in his heart that dies with the dreams and the music still in them. Right. I want to be somebody who actually try. And if it didn't work, I go back to medical sales, but I wanted to at least try and see how it goes and just give it all I have.
So 70 to 80, that's where I'm at. I'm going to be 73 next week.
Oh, you look great. Wow. You look amazing.
Yeah. So my healing stuff, nutrition, all of this stuff that I do it keeps you young, and staying in doing these kinds of things, interviewing people. Like I really love doing this and helping people stay and get healthy. All of those things for me keep me young. One thing that people are really afraid of is letting go of that steady paycheck. How can someone begin to move past that fear and self-doubt to take that first step?
Yeah, so I think that's a fear for a lot of people. And for me, it was a big fear as well, as even when I had income coming in and I was basically had replaced my income with investment income, I was afraid to leave. I mean, most of my family are teachers. They work for the government. There's a lot more like, why would you leave your great job? Kind of this golden handcuffs mentality. But I think it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. Some people think, okay, I'm going to leave and I've got to leave tomorrow and I'm going to take out debt and go do some new business thing. I think that's maybe for some people, maybe they'll do that and they'll do fine. I think the wiser thing is, can you start doing something on the side where you can basically start learning and maybe start making some income or just starting to learn about it on the side. And if it doesn't work out, then at least you'll just lose a little bit of time and maybe a little bit of money, but you didn't lose your job. There's like a fallback there, right? So I think I realized for me, there was a time where I was working, I had my full-time job. I was able to kind of get it down to about 30 hours a week, but I was working 30 plus hours a week on the real estate, the investing, the other types of stuff. And I just realized I'm going to do this for a period of time. And then eventually I'll be able to shift away. And I was able to do that, right? After a couple of years, I was able to do that. And so I think there's a way that there's a transitionary period there. And not everybody can, handle that easily, but I think it's just good to have, big things start with small steps. Don't despise small beginnings. Sometimes just because something starts small, my goal is to replace my income or my living expenses, maybe it's $5,000 or $10,000 a month. Well, can I start with $1,000 a month? Can I find an investment that'll pay me $1,000 a month? And can I grow from there? And so I think it's just finding small steps to get you towards your goal.
Yeah. So is most of your side income, is it got to do with real estate investing, or are you into like stocks or?
I've done a lot of things. I think initially I started as an investment advisor. So I did work with different assets, including stocks and other things. And then I realized Wall Street is very difficult for the average investor. There's just so many disadvantages of being a small fish in this big pond. And the information you have is late. It's not as good. Wall Street makes money. If you lose half your money, Wall Street still makes money. And so I'm a big fan of Main Street and getting into Main Street type investments, such as real estate deals, such as other types of buying businesses. And what I discovered is that people will say, I want to have passive income. So they use this term passive income. But what people think passive income is and what it actually is are two different things. What I mean by that is people will say passive income is owning a rental house, or it's doing an online stock trading strategy, or starting an online business. And none of those are actually passive because you're still actually doing the work and you can't scale it up. If you have one or two or three rental houses, if you can't 10x your strategy without creating for yourself another job, it's not passive, right? So the idea is, can I maybe do some diligence and find deals that other people are operating? And wealthy people do this all the time. People that are worth over, 2 million, 10 million, whatever. They'll find ways to invest with other groups, other people, and then they'll basically put their money to work there. And then the diligence is really on the front end to make sure, hey, who's this group and what are they doing? What's their experience? And then you invest, and then basically it's hands off. It should be at that point kind of that mailbox money principle.
For someone listening right now who feels burned out and stuck, what's one small doable step they can take today to begin firing themselves?
Yeah. So I do think real estate is a great opportunity. There's also oil and gas. There's other types of investments out there that it's good to learn about. And I think everything sounds weird and crazy until you meet somebody who's an investor who's just been doing this for 10 years or 20 years, right? And then they start sharing stories of here's what's worked, here's what hasn't worked. And so I think one of the best ways that you can grow as an investor is go to local meetups. If you live in a large city, I live in Los Angeles area, but if you live in a mid-sized city, they're going to have real estate meetups. They're going to have groups of investors to just gather, and just by being curious, just showing up and just, hey, what are you working on? What's going on here? And don't show up with an ego. Just show up with like a humility that's like, hey, I want to learn. What are you doing? What's working? What's something that has worked well for you? And then ask what's something that hasn't worked? What's a deal that didn't go well? And so those are ways that you'll grow your network. You'll learn a lot, but also there could be many opportunities for you to potentially partner with some people, because a lot of people have more money than they have time. Their money problem is not that they don't have money, is that they have money, but they don't know where to invest it, where it actually makes sense. Or maybe they don't have time. So if you come alongside and you're somebody who's bright and wants to help, you might be able to help them and find a partnership and a way to really grow wealth together. Maybe you're using sweat equity and using their money, and you can basically help to grow your wealth as well.
What's your favorite way to invest in real estate? There's so many opportunities. There's house flipping, there's rental units, there's people that get together and buy things and have some people fix them up and then sell them, and they each own like 10% equity.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I describe what I do, and people are like, oh, you're a real estate agent, or are you a flipper? And I'm like, well, really neither. We do something totally different. But I think real estate is, people ask, well, how is the real estate market? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Do you mean single family, multifamily, commercial? Do you mean retail? Do you mean warehouses? Are we talking about in the city in Los Angeles? We're talking about the Midwest. We're talking about a suburb. We're talking about older, newer stuff. So there's so many. So real estate is this huge asset that's like, there's a lot there. I think right now in 2025, late 2025, what we're really focused on, what I like, there are areas where new construction can make a lot of sense. I think right now, I live in Los Angeles, right near the fires in Pasadena and Altadena. This is where the fires were. There's about 6,000 homes. There's two areas of LA that hit very hard. This is near the mountains. It's not near the water. And so we're basically become a modular home or a manufactured home dealer to bring in these custom homes that they build off-site, and they bring them in. They can build them much cheaper. They actually build them in 7 days. Once in the factory in the queue, they can build them 7 days, and they install them in 1 day. And these are not like tiny homes. These are not temporary homes. These are 2,000 or 3,000 square foot homes that have quartz countertops. They've got tiled bathrooms. So it's amazing what's out there now. What we think of as manufactured homes from 40 or 50 years ago. It's like these are homes you wouldn't know if you didn't know where they came from. So we see a lot of opportunity there. And so I think in real estate, just like anything, it's hyper local and it's hyper sensitive to what time you're in the market, what interest rates are, different things like that. We find there's a lot of opportunity, and we're local, and there's just kind of a unique experience to be able to do this here.
Here, I live in Torrance, so I'm not that far from you. Well, isn't there a lot of toxic stuff like burned plastics and burned paint and burned things in that area that haven't been cleaned up?
So what they did there, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers came through. They basically did two things. They basically pulled off any sort of toxic car stuff or batteries or propane tanks or anything like that. So they pulled all that stuff out. Then what they did is they went and they leveled everything, and then they put at least 6 inches of dirt on top. And
Wow.
so everything is covered. Some of these properties may need additional dirt brought in as well. I think in general, if you have dirt that's safer dirt on there, it's considered to be very safe. I think initially there was a lot more risks of toxicity because there was a lot of ash and other things. But this is all, I'd say most, not everyone, but I'd say 95% plus have been completely cleared and have been
Wow.
covered with some amount of dirt. I mean, they really came in very quickly within a few months. They were able to get all that done. And so, it's kind of build ready for a lot of people now.
Wow, that's awesome. So, in your book, Fire Yourself, you talk about replacing your working income with passive income in 3 years or less. Is that your strategy? Is getting people into more real estate?
Yeah, like I said, I've had a lot of calls with people that are high net worth, and it's just been great to interview them. Just kind of, what are your habits? What are the things that are important to you? And for a lot of people, they kind of wonder, what do I do? What do I do to become financially free? I'm a physician. I own a business. I do this corporate job. And then the question is, well, when I stop working or if I sell the business, how do I make money? What do I do that actually can make money? And so, as a choice, and there are a lot of people that are making a lot of money. We're talking two, three, four, $500,000 a year, or maybe as a family. And that seems like a lot. In LA, it's not a lot, but how do you start actually generating cash flow, right? And so that's what allows people to leave. And a lot of people say, well, I like my job. I don't know if I wouldn't want to leave. Well, the question is, what would happen if God forbid, became disabled, or you had a spouse or family member that you had to take care of, or there's some issue that came up where you needed to have flexibility. There's something amazing that happens, Anastasia, when someone knows that they don't have to go to work, right? They're working because they want to. The level of what you're willing to put up with is less because you're like, I don't really need this job. And you can kind of tell your body, you said whatever, when you need the job, most people are paycheck to paycheck, so they can't not go to work, right? So when you have the passive income coming in, you know that if you go to work or not, you're going to be okay. That gives you a lot of a sense of security. Like, okay, I
Hmm.
actually can do this. So how do you actually do it? Again, there's different investments we like. There's certain real estate investments, like I mentioned. There's oil and gas, which is, a lot of people think that seems, why would I invest in oil and gas? There's some unique tax benefits that allow people to reduce ordinary income tax almost for one for one. So for example, somebody invests 100,000 in one of these projects of oil drilling, it's about typically an $80,000 to $90,000 income reduction. So people can save sometimes 20, 30, $40,000 in year one on that 100K investment, which people don't realize this has actually been in the tax code for over 100 years. It almost sounds too good to be true, but then you look it up and it's that the government wants to encourage things like energy. They want to encourage things like real estate and no
Wow.
specific tax advice.
Wow, that sounds really creative. Like I wasn't even aware that there were those kinds of tax breaks. Getting those tax breaks can make a really huge difference. I know
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
I lived in Germany for 13 years, we got a
Wow.
big tax break. I think we could make 70,000 in another country. And that was very helpful because it doesn't matter where you are, people don't know that, but it doesn't matter where you live. If you're an American citizen, you have to file your taxes every year.
You do. To being an American abroad. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, there's some countries don't do that, but yeah, the America, it doesn't matter if you're an American and you live anywhere in the world. Just let's say you have a business overseas and you're making millions of dollars, you've got to report that here and
Yes, and you
other
have to pay
countries.
your taxes on it too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly. There's some unique things out there that people don't realize that are actually possible with reducing taxes.
yeah, so you've coached and invested with a lot of high achievers. What's one story that stands out, like someone who overcame burnout, built some real freedom using your ideas and principles?
Yeah, I think of a conversation I had recently. There was a guy that works in the oil and gas space. He had invested in different things, and his goal was to retire his wife, right? He wanted his wife to be able to stay home with the kids, and basically through creating different investments that he passively joined, he was able to retire her. Say, oh, I got an income coming in now that we don't need her to work anymore. And it was like he was just so excited that he was able to make that happen and for his family. And so I think that that's a story I love. I think for most people, a lot of times things can sometimes seem really strange and weird because they've just never done it or they don't know somebody that's done it. And the problem with our financial system, and having been an investment advisor, I saw this, is that we're not taught really about finance. We're taught to, most wealthy people have a money person that's a Wall Street person. There's a lot of hidden fees. There's just books been written about, they'll say the fees are 1.2%, but they're actually like 3.2% for the average mutual fund. And then if you have a money manager, they take 2% on top of that. So 5.2% per year. And the average returns of the stock market, the average when you count the up and the down years, it's about 6 to 9% per year. So that's most of your money. So I think the problem is no one cares about your money the way you do. So I think you work so hard to make it. Why not take time to educate yourself? And I think, I got this message kind of when I was like in mid-late 30s, but I realized, man, I wish I'd gotten this sooner. But whatever age you get it, it's just great to be able to get that message. Hey, I actually can do things and make certain moves now that in 5-10 years, I'll be really glad that I did. I'll reduce taxes, I'll grow wealth, I'll be able to have passive income, and I'll be able to really develop that muscle, because as an investor, you don't come out of the womb knowing how to do this, right? This is something you have to kind of learn, educate yourself and try, and you're going to not do everything perfectly.
That's with a lot of things like relationships and
Yeah,
and how to take good care of your health, all of that stuff we have to learn.
Some of us are slow learners. We got to go through things multiple times. So it took me a little while, but once I got it, I realized this is so powerful.
It is.
And I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. But again, one of the reasons people aren't talking about it is that Wall Street has a lot of the laws and even the employers and all this stuff set up that stocks and bonds are traditional. But yet stocks are incredibly volatile. There was a time 100 years ago, in the 20s, the 1920s, there was a crash where the stock market went down by 85% or 90%. It was like something substantial. And it took 25 years for the number to actually get to where it was. It was like if the stock market crashed today and it didn't recover for 25 years until 2050. And you think, how old would I be if I'm still alive at 2050, right?
98.
So there was a time where people would say, why in the world would you ever do stocks? That was what they said back then. And so it's kind of flopped. People loved real estate. They loved real assets, loved businesses. But now it's like we love financialized and digital and other assets versus actually liking the real thing that you can touch, like a building.
Well, there are areas like in the general LA basin, the prices are pretty stable. But if you go out to the outskirts like Riverside and San Bernardino, there are a lot of people that were upside down for a while, like in the 2008, 2009, and they lost their shirts in real estate.
Yeah.
But most people's wealth is tied into their homes.
Yeah, and and home can be, they say it's our greatest investment. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, would say a house is not actually an investment because it doesn't put money in your pocket each month. It typically takes money out of your pocket each month. So in a way, it's paper wealth. But these days it is, if you can own a home, I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I think it's great. But I think that there's many strategies, and this is where when you listen to great shows like yours, I also have a podcast called the Mailbox Money Show. We talk about different types of assets. You go to meetups, you meet different people. You're going to learn about so many things you didn't even know about. I think there's an incredible opportunity for younger people if they're willing to do work and kind of find people. Because most of the boomer businesses, about 80% just end up getting shut down. They don't actually get sold. They're small enough. They're kind of like a smaller operation. And so if somebody's willing to come in and learn, they can basically really develop their skill set and try to grow it.
You have a wealth of knowledge for people to really fire themselves and develop a plan for replacing their income. So where can listeners go and connect with you and learn more about your work and the Wealth Forum?
Yeah, so I have a free gift for your audience. We have many resources and deals. We're doing things. This is a gift. It's basically it's called How to Use Inflation to Your Advantage. For a lot of people, they're just finding things cost more. This really stinks, and I'm having to pay more every time I go to the grocery store or the gas station. So how do you get on the other side of that? When rents go up, you actually do better financially. You actually profit from that. And so if you text the word inflation to the number 33777, we'll send that to you. I'll just ask for your name and your email, and you'll get updated on what we're working on. But we've got some great feedback on that. It's strategies through real estate, through businesses, alternative assets, metals, things like that. Just some strategies people haven't heard of using debt. So I'd love to be able to share that with your audience.
I'll be sure and put that in the show notes so people can go and check it out, whether they go to breakfreefromtheburnout.com or whether they go to my website, healersu.com. They'll find that information. I really appreciate your insights. So thank you so much for being on the show.
This is great, Anastasia. I appreciate you having me. It's been really fun. I love the conversation. It was great.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have you ever noticed how your energy shifts when you start seeing new possibilities for your life and your finances? That's where real change begins. Thank you for listening to Break Free from the Burnout. You'll find the show notes and resources from today's conversation at www.breakfreefromtheburnout.com. If this episode sparked a new idea for you, please give the show a thumbs up or a 5-star rating. Share it with a friend who could use a little more freedom in their life. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. And if you'd like to start shifting your own relationship with prosperity, you can download my free wealth healing audios at healersu.com/wealth. Thank you for listening to Break Free from the Burnout. Resources and show notes are available at www.breakfreefromtheburnout.com. Until next time, I'm Dr. Anastasia Chopelas, sending you golden healing light and success vibes to becoming aligned, confident, and prosperous. Your gifts are so needed in this world.